All right, hello, dear audience. I'm Adam.
I am Sean.
And I'm Mike.
And we are Nerds of the Old Republic. We are finishing up our series. I've been told it's oeuvre of Quentin Tarantino's 9 films in anticipation of his 10th. So we are going to do a quick cast on Hateful Eight, lovingly called a bonus cast.
Yeah.
Some days here at Nerds of the Old Republic. That's right. We're free, and we still give you more than you anticipated. It's the only time I can say that.
Our fans are lucky people.
Yeah, they truly are.
We give it all, right down to the stem. Sorry, we're a couple margaritas in here. At least I am.
Yeah, we are cast 2 in for the night. And so we're going to talk Hateful Eight, and we like to start with our first experiences with it. I'll go first. This was my first. There we go.
Yeah, actually, I had meant to watch it a long time ago when it first came out, and then I had meant to watch it when it came on Netflix, and I kept meaning to watch it, and I never got to it until I'm like, oh shit, I never watched that. Luckily, we were like, let's do this cast, so I finally watched it and enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't know why after Inglourious Bastards and after Django Unchained, I didn't see this in the theater. Well, actually, I guess I should say I do know why, because I had a baby and a toddler when this came out.
Yeah,
I'm sure that had something to do with it. But I never saw it until it was available to stream. And I saw it for the first time within a year or so of its release.
which I think is terrible when you think about the fact that he filmed it in that 70mm format, intentionally for the big screen.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it's weird how then it partnered up with Netflix, and he did like that. It was like a mini series when it first came to Netflix.
Oh yeah,
they chopped it up.
Really?
I had never watched it that way, but I forgot about that, and you're right. Yeah,
the theatrical release was, I did a little research on it, was just over 2 hours, like, which is pretty crisp for a Tarantino film.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did the director's cut, which was what's on Netflix now, and that's closer to 3 hours, like 2:45.
Yeah.
And that was what the miniseries was based on, was that director's cut.
Mm. Yeah, 2:45 is like standard Tarantino films for his later movies.
That's interesting. I wonder if I've seen that version then, or if I've only seen the theatrical version, though I streamed it. Because I bought it on Amazon shortly after it was available, and that's how I've always watched it since.
It's probably the theatrical one that you
I'm guessing that's it. And if there is a director's extended cut, then I need to see that shit.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna lay it out there right now.
Yeah, and this is the exact reason why we're making this a bonus edition. Yes. One, we love Tarantino. About 30 of you love Tarantino as well. Maybe 26 if I check the streams. And, you know, we know what you're here for, so we're not just going to do what we want to do. We're also going to make sure that people who are listening get what they're here for. So we're going to speed things up a little bit just to finish up. But also, we all kind of felt meh. I mean, no, Mike, I think you said it best during Django. If this was another director, you would have been like, damn, who is this director?
Right.
But because it's Tarantino, we're like, cool.
Yeah. I would honestly say this is his second worst film. But I will quickly say, like, I mean, it's obviously orders of magnitude better than Death Proof. Mm-hmm. And then, so how does it end up second worst? Well, that's because when you start going through the rest of his movies, like, it's not better than Reservoir Dogs. It's not better than Pulp Fiction. It's not better, and so on. You know what I mean? It's still a great movie.
I can make a case, though, that I think it is better than some of those movies from a standpoint of technicality. The cinematography is outstanding. Oh, yeah. And it might be his best out of all of his
beautiful
films, hands down. Cinematography is one of the things he obviously set as a goal, and it is fantastic. A friend of mine described it basically as Reservoir Dogs in the Old West. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty apt after watching it. Like, it makes sense. And I honestly, as good as Reservoir Dogs is, I think I'd put Hateful above it, honestly. I think the performances are better. I think the story is, I don't know if the story is better, but it feels tighter. Yeah. I feel like he's really honed his craft by this point. I think it just gets like kind of like forgotten because it isn't like groundbreaking. Right. It isn't like a holy shit, this is something incredible I just witnessed. It's not revisionist really, even though it kind of falls in that era of his filmmaking. It's more of like and I read about it, it's like a spiritual successor to Django. Like, he had actually conceived of a Django 2 that he was writing as a novel, and then it somehow transmuted itself into this film. Right. And it's interesting because it's just post-Civil War. And again, he's dealing with American trauma, I guess would probably be the best way to put it in this film. But I think the way the story progresses. The performances are great. I mean, the tension he builds in this thing is outstandingly good, and it's just gorgeous to look at.
Well, yeah, I agree with everything you said, and it's a really interesting point. Reservoir Dogs is kind of like, maybe to use something that was current or contemporary to Reservoir Dogs being released would be like Nirvana's Nevermind. Landmark album, right? But like, I mean, if you just give it to somebody and you don't give any of that historical context and you're like, this is the best shit ever, they might be a little underwhelmed. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Reservoir Dogs is, it was like, hey, it's a hot new director. And it was like this game. Pulp Fiction was more the game changer, but Reservoir Dogs was already headed that way.
That was his slap in the face of the establishment.
But if you just were to take somebody and not give any historical context and say, watch these two movies, which would they pick? That's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it's worthy of an hour-long cast. It's a great story. I mean, Samuel L. Jackson, again, fantastic.
Always great.
Yeah. What a performance.
Yeah.
And Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
I love Tombstone, and I like his work in Westerns. I think is just underrated, honestly, when you look at the history of the American Western. But he plays this almost campy, over the top character, but it's so good.
Right.
Is it Jennifer Jason Leigh or is it Janet Leigh? Who the hell plays the girl, Domergue?
Daisy Domergue. Yeah, I forget the actress.
She is outstanding. Everybody.
She's sinister and quirky and
they're all so good in what they do in this, and just
fucking Bruce Dern. I love Bruce Dern, man. As that old Confederate general.
Yes.
He's always that crotchety old man. He plays an even more fun part in Once Upon a Time coming up. But he's great in this movie, too.
I just love the way that, and we're going to keep it brief, but just the way the whole thing unfolds.
Yeah.
And I forgot.
No, it is very good. The cinematography. So the first 40 minutes of the movie is all... What's that?
Just showing you the time.
Oh, gotcha. Cool. The first 40 minutes of the movie is all the claustrophobia of the carriage set against the absolutely sweeping gorgeousness of the Midwest, the snow, the encroaching blizzard, all that stuff. And then the rest of the movie becomes like a TV bottle episode. The whole thing is set in Minnie's haberdashery.
Yes.
And they never leave it. They're inside there the whole time. But even then, it's still really cool looking.
Yeah.
They have the fireplace and the two chairs and the chessboard and the bar area and the way the camera works to get it makes it even though it's this big open space, it's almost still you're going to different areas within it. Large segments of the movie, I feel like they're acted out in long shots, not quick little dialogue with cuts, but the camera will move and the characters are acting almost like a stage play. I feel like I read somewhere that it was being developed to become a stage play, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
It makes sense.
But it has that feel, right? Yeah. And then, Samuel L. Jackson's great. Kurt Russell is interesting in this movie. He's great in a lot of stuff, like you said. He's great in the original Stargate movie, Escape from New York. He's good in a lot of stuff going way back.
He's had a long career.
In this movie, I hate his character, but I like his performance all the more for that reason. It's like he's trying to channel John Wayne.
Yes.
But in a way where, whereas John Wayne is super fun to watch, he comes off like just a pompous ass through this whole thing.
I think that's got to be intentional.
I think it is.
Yeah,
yes.
Tarantino wouldn't have let that been in the final film if it wasn't.
If you watch John Wayne now through modern eyes, you're he is that Kurt Russell character. It's
exactly.
All right, who the fuck does this guy think he is?
Right.
But I love the best part about this film for me was just the commentary on race relations in the country and just the post-Civil War. I mean, he puts it all there, right?
Yep.
It's again the spiritual successor to Django. And Jackson's character with the fake letter from Lincoln and how he dupes people with it, I think is great. That little nuance there. And the, I can't think of the actor we tried to figure out from Django.
Oh, yeah.
He plays the new sheriff who's a former Confederate raider or whatever. And obviously has his problems with Samuel Jackson's character. But in the end, they wind up teaming up and doing what they got to do.
Right.
I mean, everybody fucking dies. It's it's typical, downer of an end. But they get their moment. And I think it's pretty awesome how through figuring things out and figuring out how these people are trying to fuck them to save this Daisy girl or whatever, they kind of come together into that mutual, like, all right, I get it. We're on the same side here.
Right.
It's actually
well, and
cool.
it's cool how they set that up in the beginning because they're like, they hate each other. There's that great moment where he's like, I really feel bad that we can't remember the actor's name, but, he's in there and he's like shouting about all the battles and he's like, trying to justify everything that they did. And then Samuel L. Jackson leans over and is like, if you're going to say all that hate speech, you can ride up there with old Ben. And then all of a sudden the guy becomes like super, smiles like, shoot, y'all done got me talking politics.
Walton Goggins.
Oh, I wouldn't have got that ever.
Walton.
Thank you.
I recognize his face and his voice, but I didn't know. I don't believe I ever heard that actor's name before, to be honest.
And it is Jennifer Jason Leigh as Daisy Domergue. And then there's Michael Madsen, of course, in his typical Tarantino-esque role.
Yep.
Fantastic.
He just plays Michael Madsen in every movie.
Yep. Every time he plays somebody, it's Michael Madsen.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I got. Tim Roth plays Oswaldo Maury, or Maury.
The British hangman.
And he's the same guy from the other Tarantino movies, right? But weren't we calling him Eli Roth or Eli Roth?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think I said that a few times by mistake. That guy is also a guy, but they're
not
Tim
the
Roth.
Same guy.
They're not the same guy.
Okay,
I think that was a mistake.
Yeah, Tim Roth he's the one that's been on.
He's in Reservoir Dogs. He's the cop, the guy who turns out to be the cop. He's in Pulp Fiction. He's like, be cool, honey bunny, that guy.
Okay. So if you listen to our earlier cast, this is a little bit of a retraction. It's a nerd retraction. It's Tim Roth, not Eli Roth.
The ombudsman has told us that we need to change the words.
Just like they do in the news sometimes. Like in an earlier version of this story, we incorrectly reported. But
yes. But Adam.
Yeah, no, this is the first and only time we've had to refer to the ombudsman. So 4 seasons, we're doing all right here.
That's right.
I do love the word ombudsman, by the way.
I do as well.
Yeah.
That's a fun word.
Yeah. I'm not sure what else really to add to the conversation.
Did you enjoy it?
I did, in a fun sort of like way that didn't quite grip me as much as Django, for example, just coming off that.
I agree. I think it's one of those movies where like it somehow like, the old expression, like it's greater than the sum of its parts. I think this is the reverse of that. Like the parts are all fucking fantastic. Right. And yet somehow I always walk away from this movie being like, yeah, it was good. And
it's more dour. Right. There's no joy. Like in Django, there's some joy. And this one also has the problematic part of the feminine abuse where he's beating the shit out of her all the time. And she's clearly being, but I actually did read on that too. And yes, there are a lot of complaints about how there's this sort of misogynistic bent to it, but they also talk about how she's not looking for any help. Mm-hmm. She's not like this damsel in distress. Right. Like she's an agent for herself. She's trying to and it's actually makes a really clear point that this Daisy Domergue, whatever, is not this like victim.
Right.
Mm-hmm. She's actually controlling a lot of the shit behind the scenes.
Exactly.
And things,
That's a great point.
Yeah. So it's Tarantino complicating social issues like he does so well in all of his films and making you go like, oh shit, he just beat the shit out of her. Well, wait a minute.
Right.
Why? Right.
But I never really thought about any of that too deeply, but I think you're making great points here because like he's a friendless loser, right? Like he's a guy who like walks around trying to talk tough. I'm going to take your guns, son, like all that. But nobody likes him and he's alone. And I think that the other point that you're making is that Daisy Domergue is not. She's this feared villain. She has this great, huge bounty on her head, and her gang is like gone to these great lengths to rescue her. She's not alone. She has people that are trying to help her out. And, maybe it's too simplistic of an interpretation for people to see him like slam her face into the bar and be like, oh, it's misogynistic. When in reality, it's like this dude's a desperate loser and she's the one who's got really a lot more agency.
Wait. Are you saying that people strip out the nuance from stories because of like a hot take they see?
Not too often.
That's weird.
It's clickonomics, man.
Yeah. Wait.
Patent pending.
Oh, hey.
Clickonomics.
See our new social media website, Clickonomics.
Telling you, it's coming.
Fuck you, Elon. Sorry, I had to say it. It's been a few casts since we've said it.
Yeah, we got to keep repeating that.
Yeah, honestly, just to keep the bait up.
Okay.
Yeah. So, as you were talking about like him being a loser and being alone, the one like stereotypical, like it's not the same era, but the cowboy ranch hand character that comes to mind is actually Curly from Of Mice and Men. Like, everybody hates him. He's got the wife. He's terrible to her and all these things. Right. But, you know, that would be too much nuance to talk. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You know, it just came to me.
Well, there's a literary cast, you know.
We are nerds.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just of the Old Republic.
I do like that Hangman there got his due at the end when, even though they're dying and they're bleeding out, like, I mean, Jackson's character got his dick shot off. Yeah. It was fucking terrible. But that whole, like, well, the Hangman always, always brings them to justice, you know, and sees her hang, and it's uncomfortable to watch, but they hanged her, and it's like, holy shit, like, he went for it with that. Like, it's frontier justice, and it's just it's, I guess, stereotypical at this point, we can say, about a Tarantino film to have that kind of, like, that violent flourish at the end.
If you really want to go deep, I don't, but if you really want to go deep, I mean, you can, there is a case to be made that, like, this whole thing it's one of those works of fiction where every character represents some deeper part, some deeper strain of American history. And everything that happens plot wise and dialogue wise is tied to much, much larger themes and, everything. I just like to watch it as a good, fun Western, but I think it's there. I think it's absolutely there. And I think one of the best scenes that encapsulates that is when Samuel L. Jackson confronts Bruce Dern. You know, and that whole thing. And he just literally, I guess you don't know. They never say it out loud, but, like, you suspect highly that he's making all that shit up about Bruce Dern's son, right? Oh, yeah. And he's literally just egging this guy on with his antagonistic, Bruce Dern's antagonistic racism and his hatred and all that. He's just egging him on in all the ways. He's pushing all the buttons right down to, like, what he makes his son do. You know, that's like the greatest fear of the white racists of that era. And just to get him to reach for his gun so he can shoot him.
I saw that on the Netflix warning advisory thing. It said like sexual violence or something. I'm thinking, oh, they're going to rape this poor girl. Like, that's what's going to happen to her. Like, oh no, that is not at all what they meant. And I'm like, oh shit, he went there, and it was disturbing. Yeah. But it got the thing he wanted. The guy pulled the gun and he was able to gun him down and kill him.
You notice how many times Samuel L. Jackson's character says some version of, like, my big black pecker. And he keeps changing the word, but he keeps coming back to that. Yeah. The thing that's going to set Bruce Dern's character off, you know?
Yeah, that was an interesting, like, I love the way the whole thing played out.
Yeah. And then he just goes and sits down at a table afterwards. Like, the narrator is like, they argued about the legality of what they had just seen. And Samuel Jackson's just sitting there, like, sipping whiskey or something at a table.
Was that Tarantino narrating it? Like, whose voice was that?
That's a good question.
I think it's Tarantino.
It might be. I don't know.
It sounds like him.
I mean, he didn't make a cameo in any other way, so it would make sense.
It could be. And it's interesting. It's one of those things he does, too, with those, like, weird, like, interjections where he's got someone either, like, explaining it or, all that. And it fits. It's interesting. I guess it's like you said, like I said, it's like Reservoir Dogs in the Old West, or with a mixture of Clue at the end. Yeah. Like, it kind of puts it all together. I enjoyed it. I think it's, definitely belongs in the canon. Right. His 10 films, obviously. Yeah. And, I guess, should we do the recommendations then?
Yeah. Anybody feeling especially direct about being yes or no? Because I'm not.
I mean, I recommend it. If you like Tarantino, then watch it. You know what I mean? I would say if you're not familiar with Tarantino, this is not the one to start with. But if you know Tarantino and you like Tarantino, then of course watch it. You'll love it.
I am going to go with, this is the film. You need to make this your marquee movie of 2023. Watch it with your family. Invite everybody over.
With your family.
Get your church group together.
Yeah, the church group.
Yeah. You need to watch Hateful Eight and make it like event.
Tell them it's their come to Jesus moment.
Yeah. See if you can get your local theater to put it back on the big screen and see it as it was intended in 70mm format. Yeah. And I think I liked it better than I thought I was going to. So this is my rare 100% no reservations.
Wow.
Engage.
There you go.
Engage.
You've heard it from the three of us. And if you didn't know where we've been, we've done all so far 8 films. And we've got 1 film left from Quentin Tarantino to talk about, which would be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So if you're having fun with the conversation, make sure to watch that first. Grab some sort of assorted beer Sean is going to surprise us with on the next cast, and we'll see you then. Thanks for listening, and until then, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.